Hello, hi student. So we are in the first lectures and the first class of Management Accounting Technique. Welcome to my class, guys. My name is Miss Ilya. As you know, I will be your lecturer for this subject for the whole semester. So for the first topic, we will cover budgeting and budgeting control. So before we go to our chapters, I want you to know what is the learning outcome for the chapters. First is to identify the technique of budgeting. We will learn different technique of budgeting. Then explain the concept of control and budgeting control. Differentiate between feed forward and feedback control. Prepare fixed and flexible budget. Construct performance report and reconciliation statement. Assess the motivational, behavioral and ethical issue of budgeting. Evaluate the limitation of budget and budgetary control. Okay, when we talk about budget is related to our daily life. Okay, let's say you just imagine you are in campus. Okay, you are going back in campus in June. So the semester or your life in campus will start on July. Okay, before July, have you ever think to make your budget for July expenses? So you mean you have a spreadsheet? You list down what is your expenses that will be happen in July and what is your income, which is revenue that you get in order to cover your expenditure in July. Okay, let's say your monthly allowance that your parents give you, let's say like 1,000 plus, or maybe you have scholarship from anywhere from your government country. Maybe you get like 3,000 per month. So total of 4,000. So 4,000, then that is your income for July. So let's say in July you have to pay rent 500, you have to pay maybe your entertainment 500, maybe entertainment is 200, your food maybe for your food you budget maybe 600 per month. And from this budget, then for July, before July you already made your budget, right? You made a budget list, and then at the end of July, the expenditure that you list down already happened. So what happened to the budget list? Okay, first we just budget. It's just a prediction of the expenditure that you have to spend, and money that you have to spend along the July month. And then at the end of the July, the expenditure is happened. You or also have to list down the actual expenditure, the actual money that actually you spend. So from there you can differentiate between your budget and your actual your budget and your sorry, your budget and your actual expenditure that happened during July. So the different, we call it variance. So that is what we apply in business when we talk about budget. Before we start a year, maybe a new current a new financial year, or maybe a new month. So if you are a costing manager or a costing executive, you need to prepare a budget for your company. At the end of the month or at the end of the year, you have to prepare the actual financial performance or financial statement, so that you can compare the budget and the actual. So this is a bit brief about what is budget is all about. So okay, now we continue without further ado. Then we continue our topic. Okay, now let's start with the budget concept and the type of budget. Okay, what is budget? Budget is a financial plan for the future, which is concerning the revenue and cost of the business. Okay, budget for income and revenue expenditure are prepared in advance. Like I told you just now, before we enter the new month, before we enter the new year, we already prepare the budget. So it's depend to the company whether you want to prepare the budget annually, maybe it's once a year, or you want to prepare the budget quarterly, 4 times a year, because we have 4 quarters in the year, or maybe you want to prepare the budget monthly. So we have 12 months per year, so that means you have to prepare 12 budget report per year. And then we compare with the actual performance to establish any variance. So now you understand, right? First we create the budget, we create the budget report, and then at the end of the year, at the end of the quarter, we compare with the actual performance to establish any variance. Variance means the difference between the budget and actual. So from here we can see what happen if the amount that you budget is lesser than the actual, which mean is very good, because you budget to spend for the whole company is 1 million, and then the actual is 500,000. So that's mean there is the variance of 500,000. You save 500,000. Let's say if you budget 500,000 expenses for the whole year, and suddenly the actual will be coming is 1 million. So that is not good, right? So do you have discrepancy there? So you as a manager, you have to analyze what happened to the expenses, why the actual is more than budget. Okay. Okay, now we go to budgetary control. Budgetary control is the process by which financial control is exercised within the organization, which means how you want to control the process. Is the process how we want to control the financial that is exercised within the organization. Okay, managers are responsible for controllable costs within their budget and are required to take remedial action if the adverse variance arise and they are considered excessive. Okay, this one is the same that I told you before. If your actual is more than budget, so you have an adverse variance, because variance is the difference between budget, right? The difference between budget and actual. So if you have adverse variance, so the company can occur loss because you spend more than you budgeted. So that's why if you are a manager, you need to take a remedial action. Why this is happened? You have to make a research why the expenses is so high, so that you can improve with your the next accounting year. Okay, now we take a break. Not take a break. We watch this video.
Keeping a detailed budget can be one of the best ways to help you save money and avoid overspending. But not everyone has the time or the desire to sit down with a spreadsheet on a regular basis. You may have even tried to keep a budget before, but it didn't work out. You're not alone. Fortunately, there are some ways you can manage your money without a traditional spreadsheet. Now, the most important part of managing your money is making sure your needs are covered. This will require a bit of math, but it doesn't need to be complicated. Start by figuring out all of your regular monthly expenses. This will be your regular bills, like rent or mortgage payments, all your utilities, insurance payments, and any other loan or credit card payments you make each month. Then, estimate your other necessary expenses, like what you spend per month on groceries and transportation costs. Add all these costs up and you've got your baseline, what you need to cover every month. When it comes to paying your regular bills,
Okay, we start it all over again. Sorry. Oops.
Keeping a detailed budget can be one of the best ways to help you save money and avoid overspending. But not everyone has the time or the desire to sit down with a spreadsheet on a regular basis. You may have even tried to keep a budget before, but it didn't work out. You're not alone. Fortunately, there are some ways you can manage your money without a traditional spreadsheet. Now, the most important part of managing your money is making sure your needs are covered. This will require a bit of math, but it doesn't need to be complicated. Start by figuring out all of your regular monthly expenses. This will be your regular bills, like rent or mortgage payments, all your utilities, insurance payments, and any other loan or credit card payments you make each month. Then, estimate your other necessary expenses, like what you spend per month on groceries and transportation costs. Add all these costs up and you've got your baseline, what you need to cover every month. When it comes to paying your regular bills, setting up alerts on a calendar can help to remind you to pay them a few days before they're due. Or to make it even easier, you can try automating some of your payments. You can sign up for automatic bill pay with your utility companies, lenders, and in some cases even with your landlord. The amount you owe each month will be automatically withdrawn from your bank account or charged to your credit card. Automating payments can save you time and effort every month and help make sure your bills are paid on time. Just be sure you always have enough money available in your account to cover all of your automatic withdrawals. And if you use a credit card, make sure you can pay the balance in full each month in order to avoid paying interest on those charges. If you change your mind and decide that automatic payments aren't for you, you can always cancel your scheduled payments and go back to paying manually. Automatic payments can also be a great way to help you systematically pay down debt if you set up extra payments toward your loans. And they can help you grow your savings if you set up regular contributions to a savings account. This can be especially helpful if you've had trouble saving in the past. To help yourself prioritize saving, you can try thinking of saving as a bill you have to pay to yourself. Even if it's just a small amount, making automatic payments to yourself can help you build up an emergency fund or a retirement account. Once you've taken care of your regular bills and savings, you have a bit more flexibility with what's left. But if you find yourself overspending from month to month, you might want to try tracking your spending. One simple way of doing this is using the envelope method. While it might sound old-fashioned, putting a set amount of cash in envelopes each month for different purposes, like groceries, transportation, dining out, and just general spending money, can help you set limits on what you spend. So then, if you find yourself spending more than you had available in any of your envelopes, you might need to make adjustments the following month. Another way you can keep track of your spending with little effort is to use a single debit or credit card that can track and categorize your expenses for you. By keeping all of your purchases on one card, you'll only have one monthly statement that shows how much you've spent and where you spent it. So it can be easier to see where you might be overspending and how you might cut back. Plus, many banks now have online tools that can categorize your spending for you, so you'll be able to get an idea of what you spend on different things, like entertainment, groceries, or dining out. Many banks also offer account alerts that will let you know when you've reached certain spending limits. If using a single card is too limiting, money management software or apps can help you link all of your accounts and automatically track your spending and saving for you. Many of these have even more detailed tools to help you analyze your spending, and they also have alerts that can warn you if you might be overspending in one category. And finally, if you feel like setting limits on your spending is a challenge, consider making one of your goals a small reward to yourself. Whether it's a treat at the end of a long week, or putting aside a little extra toward a large purchase you really want. Rewarding yourself might help you feel more motivated about managing your money, as long as it doesn't push you into overspending. While a detailed budget can be a great motivational tool to help you cut costs and reach your savings goals, it's not the only answer. As long as you pay attention to the basics, make sure your needs are covered, manage your debts and savings, and avoid overspending, you will be setting the groundwork for a more secure financial future.
Okay, now we continue the concept of budget. Okay, A budget is a financial plan for future activities. Is a plan. It is a plan for saving, borrowing, and spending. Okay. The budget used in business often we include the sales and revenue budget, which is detailed by product and service. We have production budget, budget for each department in the company. We have cash budget. We have capital expenditure budget, and when we combine all this budget, we call it the combination of all budget is referred to the company master budget or profit plan budget, which help the management to decide which activity it will undertake and how the company resources will be used. When we talk about budget, there is several budget you need to you need to prepare. So previously I taught you about what kind of budget that you have to create if you are an accountant. First one we need to we need to do the sales budget, which is that is the main and the main budget that we have to create it. So we need to create a sales or revenue budget. We have, and then from the sales budget we already predicted how much sales that we want to achieve for the year. Then we go to the production budget because we have to produce the product based on what we want to expect to sales from the production product. So we have direct material budget, we have direct labor budget, we have cash budget, and then we have capital expenditure budget and so on. So after this we will learn different kind of budget. So when this type of budget has been combined, they have maybe more than 10 budget we call it I lost my word. So sorry. When we have a budget statement, sorry, we have a budget statement. Then when we combine everything, we call it a master budget. Okay, so this is the master budget that I talk about. Okay, first one we have sales budget. If you can see from here, this is sales budget. Then from sales budget, the first budget we have to create is sales budget. Then from the sale budget, then we go to production budget to identify how many unit we have to produce based on the forecast sale that we want to achieve for the year. From the production budget, when we can identify the total unit that we have to produce based on the sales forecast, then we have direct material, how much material that we have to buy based on the production unit that we already forecast, how much direct labor we have to spend for the year, and the factory overhead. Then we have cost of goods sold budget, we have selling expenses budget, we have administrative expenses budget, we have budgeted income statement, and we have a budgeted balance sheet. So from this we have cash budget too, we have capital budget. From the cash budget we also help, from this budget is actually help the management to make a better decision making. Okay, the combination of all budget we refer to master budget, which help management to decide which activity will undertake and how company resources will be used. Okay, budget can also assist in controlling the actual cost because manager realize that the cost of their activity will be compared to the budget. Okay, the main characteristic of the budget is prepared in advance, as we know, and we already talked about it, and is derived from the long-term strategy of the organization, which is relate to the future period for which objective and the goal have been already laid out. So this is when we are in organization, of course we have our objective and goal that we want to achieve. From this goal, then the company have to create a strategy, whether it's a short-term strategy, whether it's a long-term strategy. Long-term can be from 3 to 5 years. Short term can be less than 1 year or 1 year. So the management need to decide how the strategy they want to implement in order to achieve the objective and goal. Okay. Advantage of budget. Why budgeting money is very important when we relate to our daily life. When you budget money, you are giving yourself more room for error in life, which means if you budget your expenses in July, let's say that I told you the example that I told you before, you already create a budget in July, so that when you have that full budget list, you give yourself to less error, which mean less overspending in July, because you already have your budget list. You know how you want to spend your money, and then you know what you want to buy and how you want to what you want to pay in July, because you already have a budget. Okay. When you when you budget the amount of money that you spend, you always in much better position financially overall. And another great reason why you should budget your money is based on the spending side. It's the same what I told you. When we have a full budget, then we are in the better position. Okay. And also we already know there are variety tools and technique that we can use if we want to start budget our fund. So but the first one that the best step that we can take is we need to know what is the areas of the unnecessary expenses. If unnecessary expenses, you tend to spending your money. Okay, now we goes to budgeting. Okay. Business budgeting is one of the most powerful financial tools available to any business owner. This is the most effective financial budget, include both of a short range month-to-month, like I told you before. The budget can be annual basis, which is once a year. It can be a quarterly basis, which is 4 quarters per year, and also can be a monthly basis, which is we have 12 months a year. So as we can see, business budgeting is the most powerful financial tool that any company can commit with. Okay. The long-range plan should cover a period of at least 3 years up to 5 years on a quarterly basis, and also can be on an annual basis. So from here we can see the projected the budgeting process. From the vision and goal, we go to objective, we go to problem identification, we go to alternative, we go to analysis, we go to plan approval, we get then until we go to the monitoring. Okay.
How to set a budget and stick to it. A budget is a tool you need to help you stretch your paycheck as far as it'll go. And all it takes is just a little bit of discipline, planning, and most importantly, prioritization. While creating a budget may seem overwhelming at first, the time you spend putting it together will certainly be worth it when the process of paying your monthly bills becomes a little less stressful. So, where do you start? Well, setting a goal is always a good place to begin. It gives you something to shoot for, and then, of course, making a plan that's going to set you in motion. So here's how to do that in 6 easy steps. Step 1. Know your income. Seems simple enough, right? But knowing how much you can spend each month starts with knowing how much you take home. That means you can't build your budget based on your salary. It should be based on your net income. So get out some pay stubs and see what you're clearing after taxes, insurance, 401k contributions, and other stuff like that. Step 2. Determine your basic expenses. Figure out what your fixed expenses are every month. These are the things that don't fluctuate or change dramatically throughout the year, like rent or mortgage payments, good old car payments, insurance, and student loans. This is also a good time to make sure you have some kind of safety net to help you pay for these expenses in case of an emergency, like if you need a new water heater or your car needs a new transmission. Step 3. Determine expenses that vary each month. These are the things that change based on usage, like your phone and other utilities, as well as your grocery bill. That could change. You could also add up all those flexible expenses, like clothes, restaurant meals, and entertainment costs. These are the costs that you have control over. Step 4. Determine what's really important. When it comes to creating a budget that works, you have to take a really hard look at what you feel is truly necessary. As much as you like to think you can't live without the latest gadget, this type of expense should go into the like-to-have category. So if you want to find the fluff in your budget, start digging into your variable expenses and rank what's most important to you. Do you really need unlimited texting on your cell phone? If not, get rid of it. Are you watching all the 437 channels of cable? No? Downgrade to basic. Step 5. Follow your spending and review monthly. You want to give your budget a fighting chance, right? So keep an eye on your wallet, and especially those credit cards, to make sure you're spending within limits throughout the month. It's easy to forget, right? And even easier for the small things to start adding up, so keep on it. Step 6. Keep track. Find a way that works for you to keep track of your expenses. That can mean the old pen and paper, a spreadsheet, or one of those new fancy fun budgeting apps. A lot of banks have these as part of their online banking. They are easy to find and use, so be sure to look for them. Then you just balance your budget. Keep your income information current and track your actual expenses monthly. After a few months, you'll start to see patterns. Then you can figure out where you can streamline and make adjustments. Now, if you don't want to go it alone, there are some sites all over the internet to help you analyze what you have coming in and what you're spending. All in all, making a budget is a process that will take some time and effort. But put these steps into place, and what you'll get in return is well worth it. Before long, you can have more money for the things you want, in addition to the things you need.
Okay, that is the second video. Okay, now we go to budgeting control. Okay, what is budgeting control? Budgeting control is the exercise of control in the organization with the help of budget. Is known as budgeting control system. So this system is actually creating a budget, monitoring progress, and taking appropriate action to achieve the budgeted performance. Okay, a budget should provide the information necessary to enable approval authorization and policy-making bodies to assess a project proposal and reach a rational decision. When we do a budget, of course, we need a few process, and from this process is actually we need a approval authorization, which is the budget can be created by the subordinate, and then from the subordinate we gather information along the department. The executive and subordinate preparing the budget. From this budget we need approval from top management. Then when the top management have already approved the budget, then we can assess we can assess the project proposal from there, and also from the budget statement, then we can reach the rational decision. Okay, the process of budgetary control, which is include preparation of various budget, which is I told you before, we already covered in the whatever included in the master budget. Continuous comparison of actual performance with budgetary performance, and the revision of budget in the light of change circumstances, or in the light of change circumstances. So basically, that what you have to understand is budget performance. You have to compare with the actual performance. From there, you know the variance. From there, the company can decide whatever the next action that you want to take for the company. So we continue to organization for budgeting. Okay, the setting up a definite plan for organization is the first step toward installing budgetary control in an organization. So we go to responsibility for budgeting. Okay, whom responsibility to prepare and implement the budget. So it can be fixed for those who are responsible to prepare the budgeting. So the first one that are responsible to prepare the budget the budget preparation, it can be a budget controller. Although we have CEO, chief executive, is finally responsible for the budget. So is it better for if a large part of supervisory responsibility is delegated to an official designated as a budget controller or budget director? Okay, first we have CEO, then the CEO are responsible to prepare the budget, right? And then he's delegate the responsibility to the budget controller. So the budget controller is helped by the budget committee. Okay. Budget committee is they assist the budget controller in his work by the budget committee. So this committee, it can be head of various department with production. It can be sales department. It can be finance department. Can be personnel department. It can be purchase department. So with this committee, will help the budgeting controller to make a decision. So budget controller is will be act as a chairman. So to discuss and to approve the budget figures. We go to fixation of the budget period. Budget period means that the period for which a budget prepare and employ. So based on the nature of the business and the control of the control technique. Okay. Budget procedure, budgeting process is a systematic activity that develop planned for a expenditure of usually a fixed resources, such as money or time during a given period to achieve a desired result. Okay. We go to making a forecast. Making a forecast is an estimate of the future financial condition or financial operating result. And estimate differ from a budget in that the latter embodies an operating plan of the organization. Okay, forecast is actually an estimate of the future financial condition or operating result. So forecast can be prepared in financial and physical term or for sales, production, cost or other resources which is required by the business. Okay. preparing the budget after the forecast has been is the final preparation of the budget, which as follow. Okay, the budget activity is start with the preparation of the sales budget. As I told you just now, I will show you what is a master budget. So we start with the sales budget, then we go to the production budget, and then we prepare on the basis of the sales forecast. We forecast for the whole year what budget we want to what sales that we want to achieve, and then the production capacity available. Okay, financial budget is the cash or working capital budget that will be prepared based on the sales forecast and the production budget. So all these budgets are combined, so they are coordinated into a master budget. So budgeting is related to each other from sales until cash budget. Okay, now we go to advantages of budgetary control. Okay, budgetary control system help in fixing the goal for the organization. As I told you that the organization have goal and have goal and what goal they want to achieve as a whole, and also they have to make effort in order to achieve. Some of the advantage of budgetary control, if you can see here, is the maximization of profit of the enterprise. To achieve this aim, the company must have a proper planning and a coordination of different functions that can be undertaken. Then the second advantage is coordination. The coordination of various executive and subordinate is necessary for achieving budgeted target. Okay, now you can imagine the situation, right? We have budget controller and then we have budget committee. From the budget committee is actually head of each department: finance, what else, sales, production, marketing, and so on. So from this budgeting control, we can see a coordination between the various executive and the subordinate in order to achieve the budgeted target. Okay, now we go to specific aim, which is the effort are directed toward achieving some specific aim, which means the company have goal, we have objective, then the effort must be directed in order to achieve what we want to what we aim. If there is no definite aim, then the effort will be wasted. For example, if you aim to get high score for the all subject that you take for this semester, of course, is we come together with the effort. So if we don't have any target, what you want to target for this module? I already asked you what is your expectation for this module. Then we have to achieve and we have to put effort in order to achieve our goal. So we go to economy. The planning or expenditure will be systematic and will be the economy in spending. Then we go to determining weakness in the deviation in budgeting and the actual performance. Then we will enable to determine the weak spot. Of course, when we have budget, that is the main point of budgeting. When you do budgeting and then you compare with the actual result, then we can determine our weaknesses, why the actual will be higher. Then we go to corrective action. The management will be able to take corrective measures whenever there is a discrepancy in performance. So when we have we already compare the budget and the actual, then we must take the corrective action in order to overcome any weaknesses. Okay, now we go to the introduction of budgeting. This is This is a short and precise video, which is I think is really good for you guys to to understand better what is budgeting is all about. Okay, I love to relate. I love to put view a few videos so that you have option rather than if you don't understand or maybe you difficult to understand what I'm in my lecture. I will input some of the videos that I took from the YouTube. So which is I think that is the best video for you to understand the topic.
Before we get into the
So
mechanics,
okay, let me start. Oops. How?
Before we get into the mechanics of how to put together budgets, I think it's important that we take a step back and have a conceptual understanding of what a budget is and why the budgeting process is so important for organizations. So if we want to think about a definition for a budget, here's one that I think is really apt, and it's really a plan. It's a plan for how an organization is going to obtain and use resources over a specific period of time. So it could be for a year, you have like quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four, and really the budget is laying out, it's charting the course for this organization. It's putting together the plan of how that organization is going to obtain and use these resources. So let's think of cash. So cash is a specific type of resource. So a budget might say, okay, from quarter one to quarter four, we're looking at those different quarters and saying, how is the firm going to obtain cash in those quarters, whether it be from customers or for financing, those different types of sources, and then how is it going to spend and use those resources to obtain direct materials and those different types of things. So there are all kinds of budgets, but essentially they have in common this idea that they're a plan for how the organization is going to obtain and use resources. And so when we think about, okay, now we know what a budget is, what is the ultimate purpose? Why are we doing this? Well, one is kind of self-explanatory. We've already talked about in our definition the planning. But when we talk about this planning, what we really want to do is want to get in this notion of goal setting, right? So the top management is really trying to kind of infuse lower level managers and all employees throughout the organization with common goals, right? We've got these different goals, and the budget is a way of really laying out these goals for the organization. But all these goals and the plan and all this really means nothing if we don't have this aspect of control to our budgets. And what we're talking about with control is we want to make sure that after we've done the plan, after we've made the plan, we want to make sure that the employees are moving toward the goals, right? So if we just make some nice budget, we say, hey, here's a really nice budget that we've got here, and we feel really confident this is a good plan for our organization, but we don't actually take any steps to make sure that we're following this budget or that we're actually taking the necessary actions we need to reach those goals that we've set, then it's really the budget is pointless. So we've got this planning aspect to it, but the control is just as important, because without that, the budget is just a piece of paper or an Excel file that has no value. So we want to do the planning and control, and ultimately that's going to allow us, this budgeting process and these two components are going to allow us to do a number of really useful things for our organization. And one is, and this is kind of mechanical as part of the definition, is we're allocating resources to the different departments, right? So we've got the marketing department, we've got the accounting department, we've got finance, and so forth. We've got a number of departments, and then we can have different product divisions. And so we've got to find a way to split up these resources, right? The firm does not have an infinite amount of resources, right? There's a limit, and so we have to say, well, how do we divide this? And that's what the budgeting process is all about, right? We're coming up with a plan that ideally is going to provide adequate resources to all these different departments. And then by doing this, we're also forcing these managers, when we think about kind of the lower level managers or mid-tier managers, we're forcing them to think long term, right? Because we all have a tendency to just think about the day-to-day and what has to happen day to day. What has to happen this week or by this Friday. But in reality, if the firm's going to be successful, we need to be thinking long term as well. In the budgeting process, by saying, okay, a year ahead, we need to set our goals and come up with a way to move toward those goals. By doing that, we're forcing all our managers to think about the long run, which is in the best interest of the firm. And then ideally, in a perfect world, as part of this process, coming up with this plan and the control aspects, we're coordinating the activities of all these different departments, right? So top management can say, here's what our goals are, here's what we want to do, we want to obtain this equipment, we want to produce this amount of units, and so forth. And we're coordinating these activities so that we don't have just these different departments just going off doing these things without even thinking about what the other department is doing. For example, our production department, we don't want them to just come up with some random idea of how many units they're supposed to produce, right? So the sales department is actually going to come up with a forecast and tell the production department, here's how many units we think we're going to produce, and now they're coordinating their activities because now the production department has kind of a guide of, oh, okay, here's what we need to do. Here's our guide. Here's what amount of units we think are going to be sold next quarter. So the budgeting process is coordinating the activities among these various departments. And in some sense, that can lead to problems because the departments can see themselves as competing for resources, and they can actually try and sabotage each other's behavior, and that can actually be a really bad thing. But ultimately, in the perfect world, we're doing a good job. We put together a budget committee and so forth, and we're able to coordinate these activities for the best interest of the firm. And also, one thing that's really important about the budgeting process is it gives us a way to benchmark managers, right? We can look at what was the budgeted amount, say what was the sales forecast, and then what was the actual amount of sales. And we can compare managers along these two lines and say, okay, look, we were budgeted for this amount, and the actual amount was this, and then hold them accountable. And you could even say, okay, you had a really good performance, you did a great job based on this kind of notion of benchmarking. Again, that's just comparing these things. We say, okay, you know what, you did really well in terms of the benchmark, so we're going to give you a bonus. You did a great job. We forecasted 20,000 units in sales, and you came in with 22,000. We're going to give this manager a bonus, and we're going to say he or she did a great job. And so the budgeting process is so much more than just coming up with some plan and saying, okay, here's what we're going to spend. We've got this control function. We've got this notion of how are we going to split up resources to all the different product lines, departments, and then trying to coordinate these activities of all the departments so that we can reach the goals that have been set by top management for the organization as a whole, while taking into consideration the long-term implications of all the decisions for the firm in the best interest in the long run, and then say, how are our managers doing compared to what we budgeted? How is the actual comparing to what was budgeted?
Okay. Okay, so we continue the type of budget. Okay, in budgeting, we have different type of budget. The first budget that we have to know is master budget. Okay, master budget is a combination of all other budget, which is prepared for a specific period, which is showed the overall budget plan. Okay, all the budget are coordinate into one harmonious unit, and it is prepared by the budget officer and is required the approval of the budget committee before it is put into the operation. So this is the first type of budget, which is master budget. We already talked about it. Okay, the first thing that you have to do if you are the costing accountant, you need to do a budget. If you are a budget controller, the first thing that you have to do is sales budget. Sales budget is usually the keystone in planning and control of operation of the business is actually a sales forecast. The sales forecast is the base of the sales budget, so sales manager should be directly responsible for the preparation and execution of the sales budget. Then we go to production budget. After we know how much forecast sale for the year, then we go to the production budget. Production budget is the production forecast of the production for the budget period. So it's provide the estimate of the total volume of production product, which is aligned with the scheduling the operation by days, by week and month, and also is also include the forecast of the closing finished product inventory. So who is responsible to prepare this budget is normally factory managers to prepare to administration and education. Then we go to material budget. Okay, material budget can be prepared on the basis of the standard or historical data regarding the percentage of raw material to the total cost, which is we can adjust it to the current price and the normal wastage of the material. Okay, then we go to purchase budget. We already have sales budget. We forecast how much sale that we want to achieve, and then we have production budget. How many volume? How many volume that we need to produce within in order to achieve the sales from the production. We have to calculate with the production forecast to fulfill the sales. Then we have to add we have to add opening stock, and then we have to minus with the closing stock. Then we get the total production unit. From the total production unit, we have a material budget. Let's say we need 50,000 production unit. So every unit we need 5 types of material. So this is the material budget. So I will show you detail how to do the calculations. So now we go to the purchase budget, which is we give us the detail of material purchase, because we already identify how much material we need to buy in order to fulfill the production unit that we already forecast based on the sales budget. So then the purchase budget need to give detail of material purchase that we have to make within the budgeted period, which is they enable to the budget officer to provide fund in the cash budget. So from the cash budget, we have from the purchase budget, we can identify the total amount of purchase for material. Then so this amount we will put in the cash budget. So then we go to direct labor. Okay, we already know the production. We already know the sales forecast, sales amount. Then we identify the production unit. From the production unit, how many product you want to produce. Then you identify how much total of material that you need to use in order to achieve the production. So in order to fulfill all these budget production unit, you need a direct labor, right? We need a material, we need a labor, and we need a overhead cost. So we also have a direct labor cost that we need to identify the total direct labor to be spent in order to achieve the production unit that we already targeted. So the last one is cash budget. Cash budget is a summary of statement from the firm, the expected cash inflow and outflow over a projected time period. The overall objective of the cash budget is to enable the firm to meet all its commitment in time, and at the same time they prevent accumulation of unnecessary large balance with it. Okay, now we go to fixed budget and flexible budget. Okay, what is fixed budget? Fixed budget is designed to remain unchanged in respective of the level of activity which actually attained. Okay, Fixed budget is useful when there is no significant variation between the budgeted output and the actual output. Okay, and we have different type of budget, right? So we have fixed budget, we have flexible budget, we have master budget, we have zero-based budget. So the company have to decide what type of budget that the company want to implement. So if the company have no significant variation, which is they have no no new product, maybe they have no maybe have no new product, they don't introduce new marketing strategy, so the budget is the same. So it's no variation. It's the same from the last year and this year. So from that, we can implement the fixed budget. Okay, now we go to flexible budget. What is flexible budget? Okay, flexible budget is known as variable. If you remember, the variable is a sliding sales budget. Is variable. The more production, the more production, so the cost of variable cost will be increased. So it's depend to the amount of production compared to the fixed cost, right? The fixed cost, whether you make a production or not for that month, the cost will be still occur because it fixed. While variable, the more production that you produce, the more cost will be incur because it's variable. So the variable budget is designed to furnish a budgeted cost for any level of activity, which actually attain a flexible budget, which is changed in accordance of level of activity. So flexible budget is more realistic, is more useful, is more practical. The likely change in actual circumstances are taken into account while preparing the flexible budget. Okay, now we go to the advantages of the master budget. Okay, master budget allows manager to re-evaluate their plan, either starting with their current activity or start from zero-based budgeting to justify all activity that do not start at zero. The master budget can also be used as a form of benchmarking. Then we go to disadvantage. What is the disadvantage of master budget? So the disadvantage of master budget include the lack of participating from subordinate. Okay, as you can see, to create a budget, we need information gathered among the company, among the department. So what if the subordinate give you lack of information? So you will be it's complicated, right, to create a budget with the not enough resources, information resources, and it maybe can be a misleading information and also difficult to acquiring the accurate and relevant information. Okay, then we go to zero-based budgeting. Okay, what is zero-based budgeting? Zero-based budgeting is an alternative approach that is sometimes used particularly in government and not for profit sector of the economy. Zero-based budgeting is mean that there is no continuation of the budget from last year or for last month or for last quarter. You make it from zero. So let's say you do your budget list from July, right? I give you an example, right? From July, but the budget is based on your expenses in June. So it's easy, it's continuous, right? But zero-based budgeting, actually you start from zero. You assume everything start from zero. So every single expenses that you want to make in July, you need approval from your parents, because it's zero base. So everything need to be reviewed and need to be approved. That is zero-based budgeting. So normally zero-based budgeting is used for the government accounting. If you learn about public sector accounting, then we will learn more about zero-based budgeting. Okay, another video. What is zero-based budgeting? Action!
what is a zero-based budget? Well, let's define a budget first. Your average budget is a monthly estimate of income and expenses with a list of categories. In other words, it's just a plan for your money. At Ramsey Solutions, we recommend taking it one step further with a zero-based budget. The idea here is simple. The money that comes in minus the money that goes out equals zero, meaning you've told every penny exactly where it's going to go. Just like how you told that guy in traffic exactly where he was going to go. Now, making a zero-based budget isn't as hard as it sounds. Step 1, list your take-home pay for the month. Step 2, list all your expenses for the month, but start with these 5 categories: food, shelter, utilities, transportation, and clothing. The basics. You want to make sure your rent or mortgage is budgeted first before you start budgeting for something like your hot yoga membership. Jeff. Once the necessities are taken care of, move to step 3. List the rest of your expenses like haircuts, Netflix, date nights, plus all the stuff your kids need. Man, are kids really that expensive? Yep. Golly. Don't let life catch you off guard. Think ahead and plan for events or situations you need to save up for. Holidays, weddings, birthdays, bar mitzvahs, quinceañeras, chupacabras, you name it. You can even create a fund in your budget to put aside money every month so you're ready when that day comes. Christmas is on December 25th. Again. Don't act surprised, people. Now, if you work through every expense for the month and you still have $100 left, you haven't finished your budget quite yet. You've got to get Uncle Ben a job. Put it towards your debt, for example, or maybe buy something that can help you figure this money stuff out. Can't think of anything off the top of my head that could do that. But I can't do a budget because I'm bad at math. Well, lucky for you, there's an app for everything. There's like 5 of them just for finding the nearest bathroom. That's not a joke. Look it up. Get on your smartphone and download our free budgeting tool, EveryDollar, because no matter your...
Okay. Now we continue to so basically the zero-based budget is you start everything from zero. So every expenses and every the budgeted and actual it must be zero. So every single expenses you want to propose to be included in the budget, you need to have approval from the top management or from the budget committee. So it's a time consuming, but you can identify which part or which expenses which are not necessary for the year. Okay, now we go to advantage of ZBB. ZBB is zero-based budgeting. Okay, the alternative analysis that required the managers to identify alternative way to perform each activity, such as keeping in-house or outsourcing. When you doing production manufacturing company, whether from the zero-based budgeting, the manager can decide whether you want to make it material in-house or you want to outsource. Which can affect the different level of spending. And second, it can be a budget inflation. Okay, since manager need to align the expenditure to activity, so it become less likely that they can artificially inflate their budget. So because the change is too easy to spot. So from zero-based budgeting, no one can make fraud because it start for zero. So it's easily to spot if there is if they have so much changes or so much expenses have to be spent on that particular things. Okay, now we go to communication. Zero-based budgeting should spark the significant debate among the management team and the corporate missions and how to achieve. Because they have to start everything from scratch. So from there they have to align what the objective you want to achieve, what the goal that we have. Then there will be a communicate or maybe a debate from the management team and the corporate mission with the corporate goal that they want to achieve. Okay, second is mission focus. Since the zero-based budgeting concept required manager to link expenditure to the activity, so they are forced to define the various missions of their department, which might otherwise be poorly defined. So zero-based budgeting is a forcement to the manager to think what they want to achieve for the department, and also can identify which department or which activities that can be poorly defined. Okay, then we go to required review. As I said, because we start from zero, any expenditure that we want to propose, we want to include in our budget, we need a review. So we need time to review. We require review. So whether this expenditure is needed to be included in the budgeting. Is the company need to spend this much or this much? Because we need to review whether we can approve, the management or board or the budget committee can approve for the review. Okay. Then we go to resource allocation. Okay, if the process is conducted with the overall corporate mission and objective in mind, so organization should end up with a strong targeting of fund in those areas where they are most needed. So we already know the corporate mission and objective. So of course the company will be focused for those areas that are needed the most. Okay, now we go to disadvantage of zero-based budgeting. First one will be difficult to define decision unit and decision package, as is very time consuming because everything you start from zero, you need to meeting, so it's very exhaustive, and also is forced to justify every detail related to expenditure. Okay, zero-based budgeting, they must be clearly understood by managers at various levels to be successfully implemented. So then in large organization, the volume of form may be so large, there is no one person could read it all. So they need a group of committee in order to a large group or committee in order to approve everything that has been proposed. And the last one, the honesty of the manager must be reliable and uniform. Okay. For now, this is a summary that we have learned today. Budget are the statement of estimate resources set apart for execution of planned work or activity over a specific period of time. Master budget is a summary of budget schedule in capsule form made for the purpose of presenting in one report the highlight of the budget forecast. A cash budget is a summary statement of the firm expected cash inflow and outflow over a projected time period. Fixed budget is a budget which is designed to remain unchanged in respective of the level of activity actually attained. And then zero-based budgeting is alternative approach that is sometimes used particularly in government and not for the private sector. So okay, now we already cover fixed flexible budget. We already cover zero-based budget. So actually we have a few other budget that we have to cover. Incremental budget, rolling budget, activity-based budgeting, feed forward and feedback control. Then okay, what is incremental budgeting? In incremental budgeting, the current budget is the base to prepare the budget for the coming period by simply making some adjustment. Okay, the process assumes that the most of current activity and function will continue to the next period. So, of course, the advantage is easy, quick to prepare. It's not so costly. The disadvantage, justification for each activity is ignored. No consideration for different ways for achieving the objective. Tendency among managers to spend the whole budget. Okay, we already covered the zero-based budgeting. You can read it from the slide, which is, I think we already covered. Okay, what is rolling budget? Rolling budget is also known as continuous budget. Okay, rolling budget keep extending the period into the future by adding a month, a quarter, or years in the future as the current month, quarter, and year just ended. So there is a 12-month budget in place. Rolling budget constantly force management to think concretely about the forthcoming 12 month, regardless the month on hand. Okay. Then we go to activity-based budget. Activity-based budget approach is very much similar and closely related to activity-based costing. So it's based on the activities. So activity-based budgeting is based on the activity framework and apply cost driver data in the budget setting. So okay, we do some comparison with the traditional budgeting and activity-based budgeting. Okay, what is traditional based budgeting? Budget for functional area for or spending categories, budget for the input resources, which is they have lack of future benefit, more historical in nature, while activity-based budgeting is budget for activities and cost drivers, budget for high value added activities that support continuous improvement and capacity management. Okay. Okay, I think we can read from the slide. We already covered budgetary control. What else? This is your extra reading. Okay, what is feed forward and feedback forward? Okay, feedback from the output of the system and knowing about deviation in performance long after they have occurred for are not very helpful for the control, which is this is a feedback control. Okay, what is feed control? Manager need to control system that will alert them just in time for corrective action, and that problem will most likely occur if there is no action taken. Okay. Feed forward control appropriate action can be taken ahead in order to avoid problems later on. So we need to have a background checking. The drug testing on employee is very critical. We need a training program that are essential for quality maintenance, and also we have to provide employee with a good health insurance plan. Would definitely reduce absenteeism and sick leave. Okay. Okay, I think that's all for now. We already covered fixed and flexible budget. We already cover how often. Okay. Okay, we will continue this control. Okay. Okay, we touch about motivational and behavioral ethical issue in budgeting. So, motivational and behavioral issue. Motivation can be regarded as a fuel that drive employee to direct their effort toward achieving the organizational goal. Okay. Goal congruent refer to the degree of consistency between the goal of the organization and its subunit and employee. Okay, managers especially need to be motivated in such a way that they will pursue the same shared goal. Okay, motivating employee result in goal congruence. Employee involvement in the budgeting process, which is we involve employee in order to create our budget because we need information from all level. Budget difficulty level is the target set. Try reward to or compensation to the budget. Okay. How might ethical issue arise in the budgeting process? So, okay, assume you are managers, and then after you graduate from APU, and then you become a managers, and then you have a upper management, which is top management, establish a master budget during a planning phase. You are being evaluated based on achieving budgeted profit on the quarterly basis. So that's mean that's why we say the master budget is a benchmark. If you can achieve the budget for the quarterly basis, then you will get a 10,000 ringgit as a bonus in addition of your base salary. So there will be a conflict whether it's whether for your self interest you want to get that 10,000 bonus, or you want to make sure that the planning and control is smooth. So that you have to set the company plan, but you also desire the budgeted profit to be as low as possible, so you can beat the target and claim for 10,000 bonus. So that is the ethical issue that can be arise when we do the budgeting. Okay, we already covered the limitation and all the budgetary control. So I hope you can read when you go back. You can read the topic, and also from the textbook and the ebook that I already give you, you can read more about the budgeting, especially in calculations. For the next class, I will cover for the calculation for the budgeting. So I hope you can understand the whole lecture. That's why I do the pre-recorded lecture, so that you can listen again and again. So if you have any question or you have any inquiries and everything, you can just email me, or we just talk in the class. Okay, guys. That's all for our lecture for the first topic, and thank you for staying focused with me, and I'm proud of you because we have a very long lectures, and we will cover the calculation part later, and some part of the theory that I skip, maybe we can because we already have 1 hour of lecture. So yeah, bye, and till we meet till we meet again in another lectures. So thank you for listening to my lectures, and take care and bye.